I never expected my corporate job to lead to a heart-stopping checkmate against corruption. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was just another gray Tuesday morning. The air felt thick, suffocating even. I could hear the tick-tock of the clock on the wall, each second a cruel reminder of my mundane existence. My palms were clammy as I stared at the screen, numbers swirling into chaos, overwhelming. My heart raced. Brittany, my closest friend, knew my struggles. "Just get through today," she whispered, her eyes filled with understanding and a slight glimmer of hope. We were in this suffocating corporate maze together. Our cubicles were like cages, metal, dull, covered in layers of unfulfilled dreams. And yet, behind that gray mist, I felt a pulse, a strange vibration in the company that sent shivers down my spine. Something was happening, beneath the glossy surface of polished floors. Whispers of mismanagement echoed through hallways, like ghosts. Was it paranoia? Or was there a deeper, darker current flowing through this place? I felt it in my bones. It was almost palpable, crackling with tension. That night, as I left work, my mind raced. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stumbled upon a discarded envelope outside the office, a slip of paper sticking out, inviting me closer. I hesitated. Should I look? What if it was something dangerous? But curiosity pulled me in, my trembling hands reaching for it. I saw words peeking out: important, urgent. The name of my boss, Hector, jumped out at me. My blood ran cold. Everything changed in an instant. I turned it over and scanned the contents. Corruption? Was he involved? The words felt like daggers, piercing my chest. I had to know more. I folded the paper quickly, my heart thumping madly. In that moment, it dawned on me what I found could crumble everything I knew. I rushed home, the world around me blurring. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision. I was being watched. The thought sent a chill through my spine. Were my colleagues involved? Were they complicit in this nightmare or simply oblivious? Questions piled up like storm clouds. I needed answers, but at what cost? The weight of the paper felt heavy against my leg, a reminder of the possible revelations within. The room felt suffocating as I battled my own rising fear. The next day, I entered work with a knot in my stomach. Every smile from my coworkers felt like a deception. And as I glanced at Hector, his authoritative presence loomed large. What did he know? Was I stepping into a trap that could unravel not just my life but the lives of everyone around me? I shook. My mind raced through scenarios. I was drowning in anxiety. I clenched the paper tightly in my hand. Someone would notice, someone would recognize the shift in my demeanor. And the very thought made my blood run cold. Would I have the courage to uncover the truth? Or would I let fear silence the growing tension within? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a steady hum that blended into the rhythm of my anxiety. Every footstep echoing through the hallway felt amplified, a cacophony of uncertainty surrounding me. As I settled into my cubicle, I could feel the weight of the unfolded paper in my pocket, a tangible reminder of the dark secrets hiding beneath the surface. I could hardly focus on my tasks, the numbers on the screen blending into a blur, their meaning lost in the turmoil of unforeseen circumstances. Brittany leaned over, her brows furrowed with concern. You're quiet today. Everything okay? The softness in her voice was a balm, yet I couldn't bring myself to share the turmoil I was navigating. How could I explain that an envelope had thrown my world into chaos? Instead, I forced a smile that felt more like a grimace, nodding numbly. Her eyes narrowed in response. You know you can talk to me, right? She pressed gently, her unwavering support seeming to bridge the distance I felt from everyone else. I opened my mouth to assure her I was fine, but the words choked me. Just beneath the surface of her kindness, I sensed that she too was feeling the tremors of the unknown. A hovering silence filled the air between us, thickening with unspoken truths. Before I could articulate a response, she jerked her head toward the break room. "Let's go get coffee. You look like you need a break." The suggestion was a lifebuoy thrown into my whirlpool of thoughts. I nodded, grateful. Maybe I needed to escape the confines of my cubicle, if only for a moment. Gathering my things, I followed her, letting mundane office chatter envelop my racing thoughts. But as we stepped into the break room, the laughter of my coworkers felt jarring, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing within me. There, in the corner, Hector stood, his presence commanding, surrounded by a group of unsuspecting employees. I swallowed hard, pain like ice filling my chest. Had he been able to sense my discovery? "Ah, here comes our star employee," he boomed, plastering on a charismatic grin. "What do you need? I hope you're not too stressed." The words dripped with insincerity, each syllable an added weight pressing against my shoulders. I forced a smile, but it felt brittle, like glass ready to shatter. Brittany nudged my side, almost imperceptibly, as if to remind me of her presence. I could feel my heart racing, the echo of deception in the air almost suffocating. But something changed as Hector turned his attention back to his conversation, dismissing me with an air of disinterest. It was like an invisible thread that connected us had frayed, but I was prepared to mend it if only to unearth the truth. After our coffee break, I returned to my desk, my heart still racing. The envelope now felt like a ticking time bomb, threatening to explode in my face. A sudden urge propelled me toward the nearby printer. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I carefully unsealed the envelope and laid the contents out before me, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos of it all. Suddenly, I felt a warm presence beside me. I glanced up to see a gentle smile from Jenny, a quiet coworker I had often ignored in the hustle of work demands. "Hey, I saw you were overwhelmed. Do you need any help with anything?" Her offer caught me off guard, a small moment of unexpected kindness that bridged the cracks in my anxiety-ridden heart. There was something genuine about her, a sincerity that was pure amidst the corporate veneer. I hesitated. Should I confide in her? Did she know anything about Hector, about the whispers swirling through our office? "I'm just trying to manage some data," I finally replied, unsure if I should let her in on the secret pressing heavily against my chest. Instead of backing off, she took a step closer. "I used to feel the same way. But sometimes, it helps to talk. You're not alone, you know. If you need someone to listen." Her voice trailed off, but hope flickered in her eyes, a beacon in my turmoil. I swallowed hard, deciding to accept her kindness. "I appreciate that. There are things happening here that I don't understand." A knot of vulnerability unraveled as I spoke the words aloud. The truth was precariously close, yet still concealed beneath layers of fear. Just then, the room plunged into silence as Hector's voice rang through. "I want to remind everyone of our upcoming meeting tomorrow. We'll be discussing changes," he announced, his eyes scanning the room with a predatory glint. "Make sure you're all prepared." A chill raced through me, lacing my spine with dread. The shadow of his words hung heavy in the air. A revelation struck Meth's sudden realization that Hector was about to take definitive action. My instincts screamed at me to dig deeper, to unravel the threads of corruption before it swallowed me whole. But how much longer could I walk the tightrope of deception before the inevitable fall? That night, the unanswered questions haunted me. I tossed and turned, sleep eluding me, my mind racing with possibilities. Unexpectedly, a faint buzz broke the silence of my room. The glow of my phone illuminated the darkness, and with a trembling hand, I picked it up. A message fluttered across the screen, a cryptic note from an unknown number. "I know what you found. Meet me at." My heart thundered, the danger was escalating, and with it, my pulse quickened. Was this the break I needed, or were deeper forces at play, drawing me into a world darker than I'd ever anticipated? I sat up, the tension gripping my chest, the weight of what I'd discovered looming larger than ever. There was no turning back now. I had to decide whether to uncover the truth or to let fear guide my actions. A single, chilling thought echoed in my mind. I was in deeper than I had ever imagined. The morning light strained through my window, casting slivers of warmth that did little to thaw the chill in my heart. My fingers trembled as I stared at the message again, uncertainty coiling around my resolve like a serpent. The unknown meeting had pulsated in the back of my mind all night, a silent drumbeat of dread and anticipation. I picked at my coffee as I prepared for another day, each sip bitter like the fear that surged within me. Entering the office, the weight of last night lingered like a heavy fog, suppressing the familiar buzz of morning camaraderie. I could see Brittany in her cubicle, engrossed in her work, and for a moment, I hesitated. How could I pull her into this whirlwind? Did I dare expose her to the darkness I was wrestling with? But just as quick, a flicker of resolve ignited. She had been the only light, a constant amidst the shadows. I paced over to her desk, my heart pounding in tandem with the anxious rhythm coursing through my veins. "Brittany," I whispered, glancing around before leaning in closer. "Can we talk?" "It's important." Her eyes widened with concern as she nodded, leading me to an unused conference room. The door clicked shut behind us, sealing us off from the din outside. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. Before I could voice my fears, my phone chimed, the soft sound slicing through the tension. I glanced down, feeling my breath hitch. A second message from the same unknown number: "Don't waste time. You must come." Alone, the fear crystallized in the pit of my stomach, a cold anchor that weighed me down. I held the phone tight, feeling the edges bite into my palm. I received this message last night," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's about Hector." Brittany's brows furrowed deeper, the concern morphing into something more serious. "What do you mean? Do you think someone knows?" "I don't know. But it seems like if I don't figure this out soon, something bad is going to happen, maybe not just to me, but to all of us. Hector's been acting weird, and there's this meeting tomorrow." I trailed off, my thoughts colliding. I didn't want to drag her into my mess, but that urgency compelled me to share my fears. Her eyes flicked with determination, and she closed the distance between us, reaching for my hand. "You're not alone in this. I'll help you. Just tell me what you need." A flicker of gratitude warmed me, an ember igniting in the depths of my dread. "I don't even know what to look for. But if I don't show up to this meeting with something concrete, I fear the changes will bury us all." "I'll dig through old files and try to find anything we can use against Hector. If there's corruption, we need proof." Her voice was steady, a heartbeat grounding me amidst the chaos. But as quickly as it ignited, reality began to seep back in. "Just promise you'll be careful." The weight of her expectation settled heavy on my shoulders, the enormity of it threatening to pull me under. "I will," I replied, though I wasn't certain of what careful looked like anymore. As the day blurred around us, countless plans slid through my mind, yet the horizon was clouded with uncertainty. The meeting loomed closer, and I barely caught snippets of my tasks, words from my coworkers becoming a dull echo in my brain. Every time my phone buzzed, dread knotted in my stomach, expecting another message. I glanced up every now and then, half expecting to see Hector lurking nearby, gauging my every move. Half an eternity later, the clock inched toward noon, and the heaviness expanded within me. I knew what I had to do. With a shaky breath, I typed back to the unknown number, where, the response came almost instantaneously, a single line that sent a surge of panic racing through me: "The loading dock. 1 p.m. Come alone." The revelation tumbled within me like a tempest, and as the hour approached, I fought against the rising tide of fear and defiance. I couldn't ignore the urgency thrumming in my veins, nor the whisper of consequence that danced just beyond my grasp. Mouth dry, I made my way toward the loading dock, each step weighted with uncertainty. The cold air pressed against my skin, biting at the edges of my sanity, but I was determined to unveil the truth. Just before I reached my destination, I paused for a breath, heart pounding like a war drum. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind me. I whipped around to find Jenny, concern etched across her features. "Hey. I've been looking for you. I just heard something about Hector." The words caught in my throat as the reality of the moment spiraled. My instinct screamed at me to push her away, to protect her from whatever I was about to uncover. But the sincerity in her eyes sparked a flare of desperation in my chest. "Jenny, I can't," I said, voice trembling. But her hand clasped mine, grounding me in the whirlwind. "You're not alone, remember?" Just then, the unmistakable figure of Hector emerged from the shadows, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. Well, well. Look who decided to join us," he taunted, and a chill danced down my spine. The air shifted, tension coiling around us as the words hung between us like a harbinger of doom. My heart raced as the truth arched toward a violent conclusion I wasn't ready for, the lines blurred between ally and adversary. Time stood still. In that moment, I realized I was no longer in control of my fate, the game had shifted, and the stakes had only grown higher. The cold sweat prickling my skin felt foreign against the warmth of the afternoon sun as Hector's cocky presence took over the space. My pulse quickened, each beat a panic-driven reminder of everything I had been trying to protect. In that electrifying moment, I could feel Jenny's grip tighten around my hand, a sturdy anchor in the rising tide of fear. "Why are you here, Hector?" I managed, my voice trembling with the weight of the confrontation. I bravely met his gaze, searching for any hint of deceit that would betray his grand reveal. "What do you want?" He took a step closer, the smirk deepening. "You really shouldn't have ignored my warnings, you know. Things could have gone smoothly for you, but now." He let the sentence linger, palpable dread clinging to each word like fog. Jenny shifted, wanting to step closer yet. I squeezed her hand, willing her to stay put. "What do you mean, things could have gone smoothly? What are you threatening?" The quiver in my voice pierced through the bravado I was attempting to project. "Threatening? Oh no, dear. Just guiding you towards a more beneficial path," he replied, the smoothness of his tone laced with a predatory edge. "You're tangled in a game far beyond your understanding. All it takes is a little cooperation, and I could ensure your little team remains intact. But defiance? Well, let's just say it leaves consequences." The gravity of his words sank into me like stone, and for an instant, I faltered, fear buzzing through my body. The stakes were higher than I'd anticipated. But visions of Brittany, her unwavering determination flashed through my mind, igniting a deeper resolve. "No. I won't cooperate with your corruption. I'll find the truth, no matter what it takes," I declared, my breath shallow yet laden with relentless defiance. Hector chuckled darkly, and I could hear Jenny's intake of breath beside me. "That's cute. But remember, I have eyes everywhere. You think you're safe just because you have your friends? You're in way over your head." Regret washed over me like frigid water as the reality settled heavily in my chest. I had walked into his trap, and now we were both vulnerable, standing on a tightrope strung high above a sea of uncertainty. "Let her go. This is between you and me," I demanded, taking a cautious step forward. "What do you want? Money? Power? Ah, sweet naivete. This isn't about money or power. It's about survival. But I can assure you, the clock is ticking. One wrong move, and it all crumbles. You do realize that, don't you?" Each word dripped with malevolence, a clear echo of his twisted game. In that moment, it felt as though the world constricted around my chest, and I was caught in a tangle of emotions, panic surging as I clawed for something grounding amid the chaos. "Stay back," I hissed to Jenny, my voice a raspy whisper, swallowing the realization that I might be leading her directly into the line of fire. She wouldn't listen, not now. I saw determination dancing in her eyes, the same fire that had ignited mine, and it terrified me. Just as the tension threatened to snap, a rustling echoed nearby, breaking the stranglehold of silence. In unison, we turned toward the sound, and I felt my heart drop. A figure was emerging from behind a stack of crates, but it wasn't just anyone. They were dressed in a suit, the glimmer of a badge catching the sunlight. "Stop right there." The voice was clear, slicing through the tension like a knife. My heart froze. It was Kyle, the investigator I had precariously contacted only days earlier, not yet able to shake the revolting feeling of betrayal. Hector's face transformed from arrogant amusement to a mask of fury, eyes narrowing ominously. "You should have stayed out of this business, Kyle," he spat, but it was already too late. The game of shadows had exploded into the open, and now every secret was at risk of being illuminated. Suddenly, it dawned on me, Kyle had been tailing Hector, watching events unfold from a distance. The bittersweet realization surged within me, a glimmer of hope amid the chaos, but apprehension also settled in like a shadow. Had I unintentionally put everyone at risk? Jenny, go. I urged as Hector stepped forward, his form brimming with rage and disbelief. Not without you. She shouted, rooted to the spot, as the tension in the air morphed into an electric charge. No go. I shouted, fearing that the sheer ferocity of Hector's wrath would spill over before I could regain control. But then, just as the moment stagnated, Hector lunged forward in action fueled by retaliation, but in that breath of chaos, a strangled voice cut through. Enough. A figure appeared from the Shadowsa woman, her hair disheveled yet fierce, stepping into the fray. Hector, stop this. You don't have to go down this path. There's still time to fix this. The shock of her presence pierced the tumultuous atmosphere, like a flickering flame in the night. My heart received a solution promised on the edge of revelation, yet uncertainty rolled like thunderclouds around us. Who are you? Kyle growled, hand advancing to the weapon at his hip as the tension morphed into a precarious balance, the outcome teetering in the air like an unmade decision. In an instant, the growing storm of confusion, fear, and uncharted hope found itself at a critical juncture, teetering on the edge of conflict. Little did I know, the revelation she carried, an unforeseen revelation, could rip the facade away and expose our fate to a stark, unremitting light. In that moment, it felt like the world slowed to a crawl, the cliff hanging before us darker than the shadows we had already traversed. And as her next words echoed out into the still air, I realized one undeniable truth: nothing would prepare us for what was about to unfold. The air crackled with tension as the stranger stood rooted at the center of this violent crossroads. Hector's eyes scanned the woman, his fury almost tangible, while Kyle's grip around his weapon tightened painfully. The determined expression carved on the woman's face seemed to demand attention, and yet the uncertainty of her arrival left me vulnerable. Enough of this charade, Hector, she said, her voice steady even as the weight of the moment pressed heavily upon us. You're not the only one who knows how this game is played. A flicker of hesitation crossed Hector's face, quickly masked by a facade of bravado. You're a fool for thinking you can interject here, Mia. You've always been meddlesome. My heart raced as she spoke a name I hadn't heard in years. You know her? I whispered to Jenny, still watching the scene unfold with wide, fearful eyes. Hector shot a glance at me, then back to Mia. Did you think you could save him? He's too far gone, just like the rest of them. You can't save a sinking ship. Mia stepped forward, defiance emanating from her stance. And yet you're also on that ship, Hector. You can either help steer it away from disaster or go down with it. The choice is yours. I could feel the trembling anxiety in my hands. There was something familiar about this impassioned woman, some deep-rooted connection that eluded me. Perhaps it was her eyes, mirroring a resolve I both feared and admired. I strained to hear every word exchanged, clinging to any scrap of hope amidst the chaos. Enough. This is my business. Hector's voice blared like an alarm, but the seriousness of her point wavered in the sustainability of his anger, and then I dared to interject, my courage mounting alongside my desperation. What do you mean by sinking ship? Are you saying Hector is involved in something bigger? Something corrupt? With that, all eyes flicked to me for a fleeting moment, and in that thin veil of silence, my mind raced. What if MIA's arrival was a sign that perhaps there lay a glimpse into Hector's machinations? Corruption doesn't begin and end with one person's actions, Mia replied, her gaze softening as it met mine. She continued, her voice becoming a thread weaving through the heightened tension. It festers in the shadows, thriving on the silence of those who fear retribution. Hector scoffed at MIA's revelation, but the tremor in his voice belied his bravado. You think your empty words can sway me? I'm not afraid of threats or warning. You've always been a nuisance, Mia. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Suddenly, like a sudden flash of lightning in a storm, the weight of it all crashed over me. I could feel my breath catching at the implications of her words. If Hector was a pivotal figure in a larger scheme, then were we perilously entangled in something we never intended to uncover? Stop pretending, Hector. We might be scared, but it doesn't give you the right to manipulate our lives. Jenny, this isn't just a game for him, I managed, the urgency in my voice prompting her to step closer, her eyes shimmering with fear but also fierce resolve. A low, threatening chuckle escaped from Hector. And what will you do? Tell the world? Expose me? He motioned dismissively, but there was a hint of vulnerability in his posture. They'll never believe you. Besides, who says I'm the only one in charge? What do you mean? Kyle asked coldly, ever the investigator, his instincts kicked into high gear as he kept his eyes trained on Hector. Hector leaned closer, revealing a sinister grin. I mean that there are far more powerful forces at work than either of you can fathom. Keeping your heads buried in the sand might be your safest option unless you want to drown in it. A chill slipped down my spine as his threat hung in the air. This was no longer just about Hector or my anxieties. It was about corruption entwined in a deeper web, feeding on fear, and I knew all too well how easily I could be consumed. But then a spark ignited within me, coursing with determination. What if standing up to Hector meant shining a light in the darkest corners, finally tearing away the veil of silence? Suddenly, Jenny broke through my turmoil, her voice a whisper yet anchored with strength. Elena, what if we turned the focus back on him? If he's the linchpin, what if we expose the truth behind everything? Are you sure? I replied, surprise flashing through me at her bold thought. What if he retaliates? I don't care, she said, locking eyes with mine, a mirror reflecting my own turbulent resolve. What I care about is fighting for something real, our truth. Hope burst anew, a small yet formidable flame flickering through despair. Before I could voice my overwhelming feelings, Hector's expression shifted, and dread crept back into my mind. If you really think I'm the backbone of this operation, he said, venom lacing his words, then you have no idea what you're setting in motion. You may condemn your very existence in the process, but as I met Jenny's gaze, I felt the weight of our silent agreement solidifying. The path forward might be fraught with consequences, but standing together, we might just unravel the truth, bold and unshakable, against all odds. And yet, just as hope recovered its foothold, a response came from the shadows, a low, menacing laugh that sent chills down my spine, a signal that our decisions might lead down a darker road than we anticipated. I hope you're prepared for the game of your lives, Hector warned, his voice dripping with a malice that hinted at shocking retribution. And in that moment, a veil lifted, revealing the stakes higher than I had ever comprehended. As the shadows deepened around us, one chilling thought forced itself upon my mind. Every decision we made now could lead to validation or devastation, and soon would force us into a reckoning we never expected. The air grew thick with uncertainty, my mind racing with the implications of Hector's words. The tremor in my chest echoed the weight of our impending choices, each one feeling like a precarious step toward an abyss. Jenny remained steadfast at my side, her resolve deepening, but even her strength couldn't dispel the creeping fear lacing through my veins. Hector, I found myself saying, my voice stronger than I felt, you think you can intimidate us into silence? You're only proving how weak your power truly is. The corners of his mouth twisted into a snarl, and for a moment, I thought he might strike out, but then he simply laughed, a bitter sound that reverberated around us. Sweet girl, you have no idea what my power is capable of. It doesn't lie in force, it lies in knowing your weaknesses. The game isn't about winning for me. It's about making sure you lose everything you cherish. The image of my family, my friends, the remnants of a life I once took for granted, flickered vividly in my mind. What would I stand to lose if Hector's threats bore fruit? The fear gripped me tighter, but I could feel Jenny's quiet assurance, her presence a calming tether to which I clung. Then let's play it, she said, her voice imbued with fierce defiance. Well, expose you, Hector. You're not invulnerable, you're just a coward hiding behind shadows. He scoffed, but I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his expression. You think your little rebellion will matter? There are other players on this board, and you're merely pawns, untrained and unworthy of the game they play. But we're not alone, I countered, glancing at Mia, whose unwavering gaze still held that ember of courage. The truth doesn't just rest with us. It belongs to everyone suffering because of you, everyone still too afraid to speak out. Mia nodded in encouragement, reclaiming some of the power Hector sought to strip from us. Your reign of fear ends when people find their voices. The more you threaten, the stronger we become. Hector's eyes narrowed, the frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. You'll regret this, all of you. With that, he turned sharply, making his way toward the exit, leaving a palpable tension vibrating in the air. But just before he crossed the threshold, he cast one final look back, a warning laced in his gaze. You think this is over? This is only the beginning. I glanced at Jenny, and we exchanged a silent understanding, a brief moment of clarity amidst the chaos. The resolve coursing through me felt almost euphoric, and yet, I couldn't shake the ominous weight of Hector's warning. The game was in motion, and with each turn, the stakes only seemed to escalate. As the door slammed shut, a heavy silence descended upon us. We stood there, a fragile alliance forged under duress, and I couldn't help but feel the frailty of our newfound courage. What do we do now? I murmured, my voice trembling slightly as I turned to Mia. We gather everything we can. There are people who have suffered under Hector's regime, and their stories need to be told. You're right. The truth is powerful, she replied, her eyes shining with conviction. This isn't just about exposing Hector, it's about giving a voice to those silenced by his corruption. We began to formulate a plan, each idea building on the other, a mosaic of hope piecing together despite the grim realization of the task ahead. I felt the embers of courage ignite again, optimism mingling with fear as we prepared to confront this insidious darkness. A soft tap at the window jolted us from our thoughts. I glanced to see an unfamiliar figure silhouetted against the dim light of the street lamp outside, their features shrouded. Heart pounding, I approached the window, hesitant but driven by an instinct I couldn't ignore. The shadowy figure leaned closer, and I could make out a glimmer of hope saturated in an unsettling aura. Who are you? I called out cautiously, uncertain whether to trust this apparition in the night. Let me in, came a voice, low and urgent, echoing with an urgency that tugged at something deep within me. I have information about Hector. You're going to need it. Just as I reached for the latch, a cold chill trickled down my spine. Hector's parting words replayed in my mind, you're merely pawns. Was this stranger another player in his game, or could they truly be an ally? An unexpected bloom of hope battled against my fear as I hesitated, teetering on the precipice of a decision that could change everything for us. I glanced back at Jenny and Mia, the unease reflected in their eyes mirroring my own, and then I turned to the figure outside once more, the question lingering in the air and demanding an answer I feared the most. Should I take the risk, or was it too late to turn back? The figure outside remained patient, their silhouette a mere whisper against the encroaching night. I could feel the weight of the moment press down on me, the impossible choice pulsing through my veins. I took a step closer to the window. Doubts and hopes tangled like vines in my heart. Who sent you? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The fear coiled tightly around me, ready to strangle any inclination towards trust. Someone who wants to see Hector fall, the voice rasped, earnest and desperate. It was then that I noticed the figure's hands, trembling, their fingertips brushing against the glass as if trying to reach through to connect. They weren't attacking, they were pleading. Just as I was about to respond, a reflection caught my eye. Multiple shadows were moving in the distance, dark forms lurking in the alleyway beyond the street lamp's grasp. Panic flared in my chest, I felt the barriers of safety close in around us. I don't know if I can trust you, I said, my resolve faltering. Please, they urged, their voice soft yet insistent, you don't have time to question me. They're coming for you. Who's coming? Jenny stepped forward, her brow furrowed as she peered through the window. What do you mean? I can't explain everything now, but Hector has eyes everywhere. If you want to uncover the truth, you need to get out of here. You must listen to me. The shadows advanced further into the light, and a knot tightened in my stomach. My instinct screamed for me to act, yet fear held me captive. The unexpected kindness in the person's plea contrasted sharply with the grim aura of danger approaching us. Perhaps they were our ally, or perhaps this was a trap laid by Hector. Before I could make a decision, the figure took a step back, glancing over their shoulder, urgency etching deep lines into their brow. You have seconds. Will you live or be swallowed whole? MIA's determination ignited behind me. We won't run. We're standing our ground, she declared fiercely, her hands clenched into fists. Yet even in her bravado, I noticed a flicker of uncertainty. Running isn't weakness, the stranger implored. It's survival. Please, I can help you. If you let me in, we can figure this out together. Their sincerity reached through the storm of my thoughts, casting a sliver of light in the shadows of doubt. If there was a chance, no matter how slim, to garner information that could expose Hector's web of deceit, it was worth the risk. But then, the encroaching shadows loomed ever closer. I shared a glance with Jenny, an unspoken dialogue passing between us. Uncertainty mingled with gradual acceptance. We did not come this far to back down now. All right, I said, my voice resolute. But if this is some sort of trick, it's not, the figure interrupted, urgency lacing their every breath. I promise. They stepped back into the darkness, allowing me to open the window, a swift rush of cool air rushing in as I pushed it wide enough for them to slip through. As they ducked into the room, a loud bang erupted from the door, shaking the frames around us. My heart raced as I recognized the sound of Hector's henchmen, their voices slithering in from the hallway, demanding our surrender. Quickly! I urged the stranger. We need to hide, no time, they whispered, their eyes wild with a mix of determination and fear. I brought something far more valuable than just information. They fumbled within their coat pocket, producing a small USB drive, its metallic gleam catching the dim light. This is proof of everything. Videos, documents Hector's dirty dealings, all of it. But I need to get it to a safe place before they catch us. You'll have to come with me. Another round of bangs echoed from the door as the voices grew louder, searching for us. The weight of the USB in my hand pulled me deeper into the web of our realism, resolve hardening. Why do you care? I demanded. What do you have to gain? They paused, those haunting eyes meeting mine. Because I was once just like you. Now, I'm fighting back. You have a chance to end this, not just for yourself, but for everyone. As Hector's men began to breach the door, adrenaline surged through me, closing in. My heart encouraged a recklessness I hadn't anticipated. We could chase the fleeting thread of hope, never knowing how tangled it might become. Then let's go, I said, the words spilling from my mouth with a newfound determination. The window wasn't enough for 6 of us to escape through, the suffocating air turned thick with urgency. I would have to lead quickly and unflinchingly. However, just as we turned to make our escape, an unearthly scream echoed through the hallway. Stop! They're escaping, a piercing realization set in as the figure turned pale. No. They've found us. There was something personal behind their fear, something deeper than I had anticipated. Then we need a distraction. I shouted, overwhelmed by the sounds of chaos and fear. I picked up a nearby lamp, ready to break it against the wall. Not here, they pleaded. We have to. Before I could respond, the door burst open and henchmen flooded our space, their eyes ablaze with malice. Shit! I gasped, emotions crashing around me like waves. At that moment, the stranger lunged towards me, grabbing my collar. If we get separated, follow the passageway behind the building. I'll meet you at the rendezvous. What are you? But before I could finish, they shoved the USB back into my palm and threw themselves towards the nearest henchman, a brave attempt to buy us time. Go. They screamed, teeth gritted against the ferocity of the fight. My heart shattered for every person caught in this whirlwind, but I couldn't lose my shot at truth now. I made a reckless dash towards the back exit, Jenny and Mia on my heels. As we bolted through the door, my mind spun with dread and hope, the weight of the USB heavy in my pocket. We had a real chancer had I just signed our death warrants. The clash of bodies erupted behind us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that every choice from this moment forward would set off a chain reaction unlike anything we had faced before. We ran out into the night, adrenaline guiding our feet, yet uncertainty loomed like shadows in the moonlight. And then, in the midst of all that chaos, a thought emerged, chilling me to the bone. What if this stranger was more entwined with Hector than they let on? The air outside was sharp and crisp, a radical change from the suffocating atmosphere inside the apartment. As I glanced back, the doorway framed a chaotic scene, the stranger's silhouette battling against multiple henchmen while my heart urged me to stay and help. Yet every instinct told me to run. Keep moving. Jenny's voice snapped me from my reverie. We darted down the alley, the shadows cradling our fleeing figures as we slipped into the night. Mia fell slightly behind, panting heavily, but the desperate beat of my heart pushed me to keep my legs pumping. Where do we go? Mia gasped, glancing back at the alley we left behind, a swirling tempest of uncertainty seeping back into every pore. Follow me. There's a warehouse a few blocks from here, I shouted, trying to drown the chaos behind us. The USB drive felt like a second heartbeat in my pocket, its weight a simultaneous burden and beacon of hope. As we turned the corner, the street stretched before us, illuminated by flickering street lamps, and I realized how vulnerable we were, three frightened souls against an unseen enemy with the power to destroy everything we held dear. Yet amongst the spreading anxiety, a flash of rage ignited inside me, mingling with the cold fear that had enveloped my body since Hector's name first entwined with my fate. I wouldn't let him win, he had taken so much already. But the dilemma surged alongside an aching pang of guilt for the stranger. What if they? My voice faltered, regret coursing through me. What if they don't make it? They'll find a way. It's not over for them yet. Jenny replied fiercely. There was a boldness in her words, a defiance that rekindled a flicker of hope within me. As we emerged onto a busier street, the faint heartbeat of city life surrounded us, a comforting reminder that the world continued to spin amidst our turmoil. A pair of strangers walked by, their laughter slicing through the thick tension in the air, a bitter contrast to our reality. What were they so carefree about? Did they have no idea of the darkness creeping just inches beneath the surface? Glancing over my shoulder, I spotted shadows moving fast but not directly towards us. They were searching but hadn't yet struck the trail of our desperation. Over there. I pointed to a rundown diner across the street, its neon sign flickering. Well, hide inside until we can figure out what to do. In a hurried breath, we dashed, bursting through the swinging door. The mix of stale grease and burnt coffee filled our lungs, mingling with the stale air of uncertainty. I caught the eyes of the few patrons scattered around booths, their casual gaze turning into a mix of concern and curiosity as they noticed the urgency in our steps. Booth in the back, I whispered, nearly dragging Mia and Jenny. We squeezed ourselves into the far corner, shadows cloaking us like a shroud, our backs pressed against the cool vinyl seats. Do you think they saw us? Mia asked, her voice wavering, filled with panic that mimicked the rapid beating of my own heart. Not yet, I reassured her, though I wasn't entirely certain. The diner was quiet, but with every strained heartbeat, I imagined the thuds of Hector's men stumbling upon us, ready to tear apart what remained of our fragile hope. Minutes passed in deafening silence, each one an eternity shrouded in tension. The soft ping of the kitchen bell was occasionally underscored by bursts of laughter from the front, but they felt like distant echoes taunting our predicament. Breathe in, breathe out. I willed myself to find clarity amid the chaos, as the USB flared against my skin, a reminder that there was truth waiting to be revealed. It was almost instinctual, a flicker of rebellion ignited within me. We have to get that USB to someone who can help, I finally said, focusing my gaze at the two of them. We can't just hide here forever. Where do we even go? Jenny's voice was small, but her grip on my arm tightened, fueling our resolve. I hesitated. In this moment of vulnerability, Hector loomed larger than life. There's someone I know, an investigative journalist. If we can get the proof to her, she can help us take this down. But what if Hector finds out? What if this is a mistake? Mia interjected, eyes wide, fear permeating her expression. No, I insisted, my voice firm. We can't let fear dictate our choices. We have to trust this will work. As Jenny nodded, a sense of purpose began to weave through the seams of our uncertainty, binding us together. It was when sudden vibrations from my phone shattered our fleeting solace, sending a jolt of panic through the booth. I fished it out, ready to silence it, but the name flashing across the screen halted me. Marina. The last person I ever expected to hear from tonight, especially after what had been revealed about her connection to Hector. Hesitant yet compelled by a combination of fear and longing for answers, I answered the call. Hello? I whispered, the urge to keep my voice low battling against the urgency washing over me. Where are you? She asked, breathless with a hint of urgency that sent chills down my spine. I know you're in trouble. Hector, don't say his name, I interrupted, glancing towards Jenny and Mia, their expressions merging with concern. I am coming. I can help, she urged, her voice directed and sharp through the silence of the diner. Meet me at the old warehouse, by the docks, in 30 minutes. I know how Tao can't. It's too dangerous. In a whirlwind of emotions, I felt the cold touch of dread tightening around my throat. Trust me, she whispered, but even in her voice, I could feel the darkness creeping in, casting shadows over the truth. As I hung up, dread settled in a bone-deep ache. Who was that? Mia pressed softly. I hesitated, grappling with the need for honesty versus the weight of the burden. Marina, she wants us to meet, says she can help but she's tied to Hector, I confessed, every syllable a tremor of fear. A silence fell around us, heavy with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Our plans were unraveling, new paths opening with dizzying potential. Are you sure we can trust her? Jenny's voice was barely above a whisper, the weight of the question hanging in the dim light, threatening to unravel everything. I swallowed hard, realizing that I was inviting even more complexities into our already tangled lives. I don't know, but she might be our only shot. Before anyone could respond, the bell above the diner door swung open, and a group of rough-looking men stepped inside, their eyes scanning the room like wolves hunting for prey. My breath caught like a knife in my throat. We've been spotted. Suddenly, every ounce of earlier resolve rushed to the surface. There was no time left to wrestle with doubts. Get ready, I rasped, adrenaline igniting a fire within. As we inched back into the shadows, the realization hit me like a freight train. Once again, the world shifted beneath our feet. It seemed Hector's reach extended deeper than I had ever dared to consider, leaving me to question everything I knew. The danger wasn't just for us, it was threaded into every decision, every relationship. But where would this newfound complexity lead? Would it trap us further within Hector's grasp or offer an escape that was yet unseen? In that moment, I had to make a choice, and each passing second grew heavier as I grasped our fate in my hands. The stakes had transformed. Who we trusted could either blind us to the truth or illuminate the shadows we dared not tread. The depth of my responsibility clawed at the very fabric of my being, threatening to engulf everything. And then, through the panic and chaos, an unsettling thought whispered through me. What if Marina wasn't just an ally but was already working under Hector's orders, weaving a deeper deception that would ultimately lead to our downfall? The air thickened around us, every heartbeat pounding the terrifying question deeper into my core. As the men approached our booth, nothing could prepare me for what desperation might unleash next, or whether I was capable of the strength needed to face the truth ahead. The diner felt like a lifeboat in the middle of a storm, tossed by unseen waves as the men approached. My heart raced, each thump echoing the fear threading through my veins. Stay low, I urged, instinctively hunching over, all too aware of how fragile our sanctuary felt. But as they drew nearer, the din of the diner faded, every clink of dishes and murmur of patrons muted into a haunting stillness. The figures loomed larger in our minds, casting long shadows over the small, fragile hope we had clung to in this moment of peril. What now? Mia's voice was barely a whisper, laced with panic. I could feel the tremors in her hands as she gripped her seat, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Before I could answer, the group separated. Two men slipped deeper into the diner, their attention focused on a table on the opposite side. It was impossible to know if they were looking for use or simply scanning for trouble. Meanwhile, the leader, a burly figure adorned with sharp tattoos and an air of arrogance, flanked our booth. He scanned the room, eyes glinting with a predatory focus before landing on us. My breath hitched, there was no escaping his gaze, a disconcerting mixture of authority and menace radiating from him. Without knowing why, I made the reckless decision to hold his stare. I needed to distract him, to buy us some precious seconds. Can we help you? I half-blocked my heart's racing thud with casual indifference, attempting to sound collected despite the pounding in my ears. He smirked, leaning closer. The smell of stale cigarettes and cheap cologne invaded my senses. Just looking for some old friends. Haven't seen anyone like you around these parts, he drawled, eyes scanning our frightened faces, savoring the tension as if it were a delicacy. My palms felt clammy against the booth's vinyl as I forced myself to remain calm. You must have us confused. We're just waiting for a ride. The words slipped out, laced with a falsehood that sat heavy in my throat, tasting bitter. The man's smirk deepened, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Riding away from trouble, I bet, he said with a cold laugh before turning back to his companions. I could almost hear the machinery of their minds ticking as they exchanged glances, suspicion brewing in their depths. Should we make a run for it? Jenny murmured, panic threading through her whisper. Not yet, I replied, assessing our options. Panic might quicken our hearts, but it would also cloud our judgment. If we were going to fight our way through this, we had to remain calm, rational. The burly leader turned back, suddenly standing taller like a sentinel shepherding his flock. Why don't you just take the safe road and come with us? Hector's looking for you three, he suggested, his voice a low, honeyed threat. Fear wrapped around me like a vice, squeezing the breath from my lungs. Hector knew where we were? How far had his reach spread, entwining us in a web of danger that grew tighter by the minute? I forced myself to process the situation, searching the diner's sparse spaces for an escape route. I noticed a back door near the restrooms, heavily worn yet unlocked. We'll never go with you, I declared, surprising even myself with the conviction rising in my chest. The leader took a step closer, brow furrowing as his smirk melted into annoyance. You don't get to choose, he growled, his eyes narrowing. You just can't ignore the past, especially with Hector waiting. He can't control us forever, I shot back, the weight of defiance swelling inside me, simultaneously igniting my hope. We have something he wants, and we're not afraid to fight for it. My declaration hung in the air, a shield crafted from desperation and daring, but before the man could retort, a hair-raising crash erupted from the front of the diner. The bell above the door shattered, sending shards of glass cascading onto the floor like tears from a void. Instinctively, I turned, heart racing, to find a shadow sweeping through the hole where the door had been. For a moment, relief turned to disbelief before recognition struck like lightning. It was the stranger, the one who had fought valiantly against Hector's men just hours before. His silhouette was defined by an urgency matched only by the fire burning within his eyes. An aura of fierce determination surrounded him as he darted towards us, shouting, "This way!" Without a moment's hesitation, I grabbed Mia and tugged at Jenny as we leaped from our booth, adrenaline surging through my veins. The burly man swung around, caught off guard, his expression shifting from shock to fury. "Get back here," he roared, but we were already moving, diving past the stranger who positioned himself between us and our pursuers. In that split second, I felt the weight of the USB in my pocket, once again our secret, our lifeline. But as we dashed towards the back door, a new fear dawned on me. Would this man's help lead us to salvation, or deeper into Hector's lair? We burst through the back door into the dim light beyond, the cool air striking my skin like a refreshing awakening. But the sense of freedom was short-lived as I glanced back to see the same group racing towards us like shadows. They were relentless over there. The stranger shouted, pointing towards a narrow alley. We obeyed, barreling into the darkness, breathless and shaken. Yet amidst the danger, a vibrant hope sparked within. Might was the first flicker of light in this consuming darkness, but what was brewing beneath my resolve was a new current of dread. The realization that trusting the stranger could turn into another betrayal buzzed in the back of my mind. He might very well be leading us right back to Hector, and with every step deeper into the unknown, I could almost feel the electric pull of destiny drawing us together or tearing us apart. As we turned the corner into the labyrinthine alleys, torrents of uncertainty cascaded through my thoughts. Would the help of a stranger lead us into the arms of safety, or was this just another twisted game of survival cleverly orchestrated by Hector? Before I could voice the fear gnawing at me, a chilling shout echoed from the alley we had just left, confirming our worst nightmares. Find them. They're not going far. In that haunting moment, I knew our time was running out. An insurmountable weight pressed on my chest, constricting the very air I breathed. If Hector's men were relentless, then so would we have to. Every ounce of strength would need to go into unraveling the impending storm, our only salvation resting upon the knife's edge of fragmented alliances and shadows merging toward a violent reckoning. Where would it lead us, and at what cost? The shadow swallowed us as we tore deeper into the labyrinth of alleyways, echoes of heavy footsteps thrumming in our ears. The stranger guided us, weaving through darkness like a thread pulling us closer to the edge of salvation if salvation even existed now. My heart raced as adrenaline coursed through me, the reality of our impending choices dawning like a suffocating fog. There was no turning back now, my past and present were colliding in ways I had never imagined. As we rounded a corner, the stranger turned to face us. "We need to move fast. They'll be on us any second." "I know a place," he urged, those piercing eyes revealing the adrenaline-induced determination waging a war within him. "Who are you?" I asked, the demand for truth and protection mingling in my voice. "Why should we trust you?" "Because Hector knows him here," he said with an eerie calmness, a flicker of sincerity shining through foundational cracks of fear. "And if you want to expose him, you need someone on the inside." I glanced at Jenny and Mia, searching for any sign of assurance. Each word I spoke could either fortify our bridge of trust or shatter our fragile alliance once more. "What do you know about Hector?" Jenny asked, her voice steady but edged with concern. His response came with a measured heaviness. "I used to work for him. But when I saw the truth of what he was doing, I turned against him. If you're looking for proof, I can help you, but we must be careful." Suddenly, the reminder of our own vulnerability tugged at my heart. "You're just asking for the chance to walk us right back to Hector," I said, my voice climbing with tension. "How do I know you're not a pawn in his game?" He averted his gaze, understanding mingling with sorrow. "I can't prove anything but my intentions. You have to choose to trust me or end this fight now." Sounds of pursuit were palpable, quickening my thoughts. There was a choice to be made between the dangers of the known and the uncertainties of the unrevealed. "If we go with you, what's the plan?" I found myself asking, drawn in by both hope and trepidation. In this moment, I was tethered to something larger, a fight for something undefinable yet intrinsic to my very soul. "I know a safe house nearby. It's a place where we can dig deeper into Hector's operations and get you the help you need," he replied, determination etching lines across his face. It felt like our moment of choice hung upon a precipice so precarious that I could feel the veins of fate twisting fatefully beneath me. Mia finally spoke, her voice steady. "Let's take the risk. It's the only chance we have. If he used to work for Hector, then he knows how to navigate this world." Jenny's eyes reflected indecision, fear wrestling with bravery, but in that shared silence, she nodded in agreement. "We have to trust someone. Either we stay and risk capture or we take that leap of faith." With that silent consensus pulsing in our collective heartbeat, I felt the shackles of doubt begin to crumble. "Okay, lead the way," I said, my voice resolute, willing to rise from the ashes of my fears. We followed the stranger through dim streets, a maze hidden in the city's heart, until we arrived at a seemingly abandoned warehouse. He twisted the handle, revealing a corridor dimly lit, an aura of secrecy resting like dust in the air. Inside, the walls were cloaked with time-worn graffiti, the scent of dampness saturating the air. My heart thudded, each beat resonating like a warrior's drum as we stepped in. "This is it," he said, closing the door quietly behind us. "No one should suspect us here." Hesitantly, I stepped deeper into the hollow space. "What now?" I asked, glancing around for any signs of life, searching for reassurance amidst this dark unknown. "We gather information. We dig into everything Hector has. I have contacts who can help us broadcast this truth once we have the evidence," he explained as we made our way toward a small table strewn with papers and a clutter of old devices that felt like remnants of battles fought long ago. While we fanned out to cover the room, more shadows crept in from the edges of my consciousness. "We need to act fast, then," I said with newfound urgency. "True, but we also need to be cautious." As we whispered plans and strategies, anxiety hovered between us like a dark cloud, an ever-present reminder of the danger lurking outside. In the midst of our resolve, moments stretched as we sifted through the sheets of documents. Just as we found a trove of information including names, places, and transactions indicative of deep corruption, a chilling crinkle of sound echoed a foreboding announcement that we were not alone. "Someone's coming," Jenny hissed, her breath hitching, panic swelling in her eyes. Adrenaline ignited, we huddled close, grasping the precious documents in our hands. "We need to find a way out," Mia urged, voice trembling yet fierce. But before we could plan our descent into chaos, the door burst open, flooding the semi-darkness with blinding light as the very presence we dreaded filled the space. Hector, flanked by his men, his expression a mask of fury and triumph. "Did you really think this little charade would go unnoticed?" he spat, eyes glinting dangerously like knives. "You're all finished." The room erupted, chaos spiraling like a twisted dance of shadows. I felt my heart in my throat, pounding fiercely against the resonance of betrayal that washed over me. Yet, amidst that maelstrom, something inside stirred a flicker of courage urging me to fight back against the tide of despair. Then something unexpected happened. The stranger leapt forward, confronting Hector with unexpected bravery. "You don't hold any power here anymore, Hector," he declared, defiance carved into his features. "You've manipulated and destroyed enough lives." The suddenness of his words acted as a spark, igniting a chain reaction within me. I couldn't remain benched in the shadows while someone else stood against the darkness. "You're wrong, Hector," I shouted, my voice echoing with newfound purpose. "This isn't over. We're taking back our lives." No more hiding. Shocked silence enveloped the room, punctuated by the raw truth that charged the air. For a brief moment, Hector seemed taken aback, the weight of our collective defiance palpable. Then fury flashed across his face, a storm gathering ready to unleash its wrath. "You think you can defy me?" He stepped forward dangerously, but before he could reach us, I grasped the USB drive tightly, a tangible lifeline, whispering prayers that we would find our way to open the door to truth. And in the midst of chaos, I knew in that instant, we wouldn't be shattered by fear any longer. We'd become the architects of our own fate, ready to turn the tides against this insidious darkness once and for all. Every heartbeat felt like a call for rebellion against the oppression that had haunted us for too long. I turned to Jenny and Mia, their faces steeled with resolve. Holding tight to the newfound strength we had forged, I felt it igniting something within me, a determination blooming stronger than the fear that loomed. "Ready?" I asked, ready to confront the shadows that had sought to drown us. And amidst the chaos, I felt a flicker of hope in my chest, the assurance that together, we had the power to expose the truth and bring this nightmare to its reckoning. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about reclaiming our lives, our hope, and our futures. And as Hector's twisted smile widened, revealing his power struggles against a fading world, we held the might of truth quietly, yet undeniably, ready to rupture the dark veil once and for all. "Together," I murmured, locking eyes with my friends, the strength of our connection intertwining against the malevolence ahead. And as the shadows closed in, I knew that this battle was going to be ours, an unpredictable journey into a future that bore both uncertainty and fierce hope. No matter what lay ahead, one undeniable truth anchored itself in my heart: we would rise against the tides of darkness and reclaim what was rightfully ours. I just didn't know how steep the cost would be, nor how deep the scars would imprint into our souls, but together, we were ready to face it. And as the first rays of dawn wove themselves through the impending darkness, I felt a power of belief rushing through me like an unstoppable river. "We won't be silenced."